Greetings, BOE. We are live.
Thank you very much. Vicki, can we do roll call?
Yes, in attendance tonight, Eric Frederickson, Patrick Brabant, Kate, Dennis Field, Kate Ferris, and Joe McClain.
All right. Can we all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, so we actually have public comments to start, and before we public comment, I'd just like to read, set the table for our public comments. The first public comments tonight will be for agenda items only, and the final one at the end of the meeting can be more open. So let me say, ladies and gentlemen, we are about to convene into the public comment period of our meeting. It's absolutely crucial for us to hear from our community members about their concerns and issues and appreciate all of your comments. While we may not be able to respond to your concerns and questions tonight, we do take them very seriously and want to have sufficient time to process and research issues if need be, so we can respond thoughtfully at a future meeting or have the proper staff member get back to you at the appropriate time. I also want to point out that under state and federal privacy laws, we are unable to entertain any comments or questions about school personnel or any individual identities. On these matters, we would ask you to go through the appropriate administrative channels. Finally, we intend that our school board meetings serve as an example to our students that members of our school board and members of our community can deal with controversial issues in a civil manner and demonstrate mutual respect. In that spirit, we ask that all speakers and members of the audience maintain civility and respect for any divergent views that may be expressed. We ask that speakers please address their comments to the board directly rather than the audience. Thank you very much. So now we can move to public comments number 1. Is there anyone on LTV or present tonight that would like to speak?
I currently have no callers on the line. The phone number is up at the top. It is, just so everyone can hear, it's a 609-663-0574. Just making absolutely sure that everyone has that confirmed.
Thank you very much. Please come up.
Take one and pass those down. Take one and pass the other down, please. Good evening. David Buddha. I reside in the Springs the past 23 years. I trust some, or perhaps all of you, have had an opportunity to read my letter to the editor of the East Hampton Star that was published on September the 5th. If not, I've attached a copy for your convenient reference. I have reviewed the reserve funding resolution on tonight's agenda. By the way, there's a typographical error in there with reference to the GML section. It's 6 small d, not 6 capital D. I have compared tonight's proposed resolution to the one that was adopted on July the 2nd. The stark differences between the two resolutions raises numerous questions, which I will list here and hope that our business official that's here tonight will answer at the appropriate time in the meeting when business item 4.8 is discussed. Question 1. When was the 2023-2024 year-end audit completed, and when will it be published? Number 2. Does tonight's resolution completely supersede the July 2nd resolution so that the proposed funding of the general employee and teacher retirement contribution reserves will also not be funded this fiscal year with up to $125,000 from last year's surplus monies, i.e. excess fund balance? Question number 3. How was the amount of $342,000 determined as being the proper and necessary amount to be used from last year's surplus monies that you intend now to use to add funding to the existing repair reserve account? Next question, number 4. After all sums for any reserve account funding this year are deducted from last year's audited surplus money account, how much will be transferred to this year's general fund to constitute the unappropriated and unrestricted account, the so-called rainy day fund? Next, what percentage will be the amount of such transferred unappropriated and unrestricted funds, when compared to this year's total school board budget, will it be at or close to the 4% maximum allowed? And lastly, have you determined whether there will be any additional available money to use to reduce this year's amount of money to be raised by tax revenue above and beyond the $1,066,727 that was appropriated in the approved 2024 budget for that purpose? Now, while I certainly very much am heartened to hear that you have apparently decided to substantially reduce the amount of money that you intend to transfer into the repair reserve fund, based on my research, I believe that even that proposed action tonight is ultra vires. In other words, an action done beyond one's legal power. Unless such action has received explicit voter approval, I am not aware of any such voter approval having been granted for this proposed new $342,000 funding of the school district's existing repair reserve fund. If I am wrong, please enlighten me as to when and how that occurred. I actually, after the last meeting, sent a FOIL request to Vicki, and I'm waiting for a response. The essence of that was, with regard to the original resolution from July, was there voter approval for the proposal then to deposit $1.5 million into the reserve account? Now that the number has shrunk, but the question still remains. All three relevant controlling authorities agree that the funding of a repair reserve fund requires prior voter approval. I'm not going to read the details of the balance of the letter. The attachments are the documents from those three sources, but I'll just summarize. Number one, your independent auditors state annually in their audit report that with respect to reserves, repair reserves, voter approval is required to fund this reserve, and cites opinion of the New York State Controller 81-401. The New York State Education Department, which you obviously recognize as governing authority, publishes a document called the Fund Balance, Reserves and Designations. And at the section cited states that, quote, with emphasis added, voter approval is required to fund this reserve. Third and foremost, New York State Controller issues on a regular basis a memoranda summarizing and guiding government actions. One is called Local Government Management Guide Reserve Funds. It was updated in February 2022, and at page 11, it states, with respect to how to create and use repair reserve funds, there is no referendum requirement for the establishment of a repair reserve fund or for expenditures from the fund, but then continues on footnote 10. Note, however, that in the case of school districts, an appropriation to a repair reserve fund is not an ordinary contingent expense, and therefore voter approval is required to fund a repair reserve fund. So again, I'm not aware of any explicit voter approval for this proposed $342,000 funding of the repair reserve fund. Now, in 2002, I believe, and Sam will correct me if I'm wrong, the East Hampton School District for the first time created their repair reserve fund, and they adopted, by voter approval, a plan to put up to $10 million in that fund over 5 years. We have never done such a thing. We don't have any prior explicit approval by the voters to put this $342,000 into the repair reserve fund for purposes that are obviously not known yet and not stated, not even explained to the public. So therefore, if I am correct, and if this money is not properly authorized by the voters, then you have one of two choices. You can seek that approval in the way of a referendum at the appropriate time, or you can use that money to increase the available funds that could be used to reduce the amount of money needs to be raised by tax revenue. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments.
Let me respond to some of that.
If you're able to respond, that would be wonderful.
First of all, the resolution that the board adopted in July had language that said up to. And the reason why we had the up to amount was we didn't know the amounts. Now, I will say there was an error in that resolution. We referred to, I drafted the resolution, I referred to 2002 repair reserve. That was a mistake on my part. 2022, that it should have just been the previously established repair reserve, which has been corrected in tonight's resolution, which does supersede the July resolution, because now we know the exact amounts. Your auditors have completed their work, and they say this is the amount of money that you have available to put into the repair reserve. They also say that you have enough money left over from last year to fund your unappropriated fund balance up to the 4%. I think the board has discussed, we've said this in public, that last year's unappropriated fund balance was 1/4% of the spending of the budget, which was such a small amount, it caused the district to be on the New York State Comptroller's list of districts in fiscal distress, susceptible to fiscal distress, which is not the place you want to be. For a number of reasons, including it also raises your borrowing costs because the bond agencies see that and they give you a lower bond rating. And you have to borrow money every year under a TAN, and you get a lower rating and thus higher interest because you don't have an appropriate amount of reserves. So the auditors have completed their work. They tell us that there was enough unspent funds that you can fund your 4%, the unappropriated fund balance, up to the maximum permissible 4%, and you have $342,000 that you can put into the repair reserve. The repair reserve was created by the voters in May of 2007, and Ms. Lawrence and I were just looking at the minutes from then to see it. So, you know, look, here's the bottom line to sort of answer the questions that were posed to you. The resolution tonight supersedes what we had in July because we didn't know the numbers that we had in July, but we needed to create some space for the auditors to do their work. And now that we see where we are, recommendation that Ms. Carney, Ms. LePage, and I have for you is you put the available money into the repair reserve. I think that, you know, that's where I think we are. Could you use it to reduce the amount of money that you're going to increase the levy by? Yeah. Is that a good idea? No. First of all, and I don't mean to make light of this, the impact on the individual homeowner will be so small as to be negligible. Now, of course, every dollar is important to each person, but you are charged with the overall financial stability of the district. Not having an appropriate number of reserves is not in the district's financial interest. You saw that last year by the comptroller citing it. It's also important to note that we are by no means anywhere close to the cap of what reserves can be. You're nowhere near it. You are budgeting responsibly. You're creating reserves for future use. You're creating reserves so you don't have to hit your budget for certain things like repairs that have to happen to this building. The building, which, by the way, is the largest public investment in this school district, in this community, is the maintenance of this building. It's incumbent upon you to make sure it's well kept. And that's what the repair reserve does. It is certainly a nice thought that you keep the taxes as low as possible, tax increases as low as possible. But by doing so, you run the risk of your building deteriorating. And each one of you lives in a home. The home has to be maintained, just like this building has to be maintained. And you run the risk by giving money back, it's not going to be appreciable by the taxpayers at the expense of the overall financial and structural stability of the school. You know, look, it's a matter of opinion about whether or not you think that's a wise move, and you will, you know, make a public declaration later this evening with your vote. I recognize everything that Mr. Buddha is saying. I don't agree. I think that you should put the money in reserves, but ultimately it's your call. It's your money. It's not my money. It's my recommendation. It's what I'm here for municipal finance expertise. Ultimately, the decision is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Do we have any more comments tonight on this public comments number 1? Yes, please, come on.
Hi, my name is Lauren Bolger, and I see that we've jumped into the business of the year right away, and I just wanted to welcome everybody to the new school year, our new board member, and most of you know who I am. I'm the chair of the Spring Citizens Advisory Committee, and I look forward this year to having really good communication so that we know what's going on here and can participate as a community more and more to make the spring school really a community school, not just for the kids and the parents that go here, but I'd like to see everybody feel that it's like our school and we have to support it. So I'm glad you're all here and thank you, and that's it.
Thank you very much. We appreciate that. That's wonderful. And yes, we, while not necessarily on the agenda, but certainly through our committees, we're very excited to begin our committees soon, probably later this month or at least early next month. And those are wonderful opportunities to have more, intimate conversations specific to the
Ms. Bolger has
committees.
already offered to participate
Oh.
on the committee, so I'll be meeting with her on Thursday.
Well, that's
so
Yeah,
wonderful.
I'm in.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So thank you very much. Do we have any more comments from those here or online tonight? All right, wonderful. All right, so I'm going to move, I want to ask for a motion to approve items 3.2 to 3.8 on our consent agenda items tonight. Do I have a motion? Do I have a second? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. So we're going to move into our business items section now. I'd like to ask for a motion to approve items 4.1 to 4.9 under business items on our agenda. Do I have a motion? Do I have a second? All right, thank you, Sam. Can you please review these items for us?
Sure. Item one, you have a student who needs transportation to a special education placement. East Hampton sends a bus there. You don't. It's far more economical for you to put the student on a East Hampton's bus than run your own bus. That takes care of item one. By the way, you did this last year, so this is not new information. This is not new. The second, so the transfer of money from account to account is something that happens on a regular basis because things happen. For example, the most simple example is you have a teacher who is appropriated in budget code 1, let's pretend for argument's sake it could be 3rd grade, and now that teacher is teaching 4th grade, which would be a different could be a different budget account. You need to move that salary to follow the position. If you don't allow the business office to do some budget transfer subject to the superintendent's approval without board approval, you're going to handcuff the ability for it to function on a daily basis. $30,000, while it is a lot of money, unfortunately in today's financial climate is a fairly modest amount, given the amount of money you have here. So we are recommending that you authorize the superintendent with the business office to make these transfers. Part of your treasurer's report is a list of all the transfers that happens anyway, so the board is aware of this. Anything above $30,000 has to come to you for specific approval. Item 3, you have several vehicles that have reached or long surpassed their useful life. Parts that are worthy of being mined from them for future use have been taken out, and these buses are long past the ability for students to ride on them safely. So we're recommending that you declare them obsolete and we dispose of them. The recommendation is that there's for lack of a better word, a scrapper, somebody who buys these vehicles as part of his work. He gives a very fair market price. You get the money. He does with it what he does. You could sell them at public auction. I don't think you're going to get a better price, and I think you're going to spend a lot of money setting up that public auction. So the law requires you to sell it in a methodology that is most economically responsible to taxpayers, and I believe this is most economically responsible. These vehicles, as I said, are long past sell-by date. I think the next few items kind of speak for themselves. The attachments are there. I think we've exhausted the conversation on the approval of funding, which is item 4.8, and the budget transfer. So in the close of the books from last year, the auditor is recommending a couple of budget transfers just to move money into the appropriate lines to clean up the end of last year. So you're authorizing the business office superintendent and the auditor and the accountants to just wind up last year's financial activity by doing these transfers just to make everything clean at the end. By the way, there was one other question Mr. Buddha asked that I forgot to address. The audit is done. It will be presented to the audit committee, as is always the case. The audit committee will then look at it. That's going to happen sometime this month because the audit is due in Albany early in October. The generally accepted practice is that once the audit committee has seen it and given their approval to it, it gets sent to Albany, and then the auditor will come, I think, on Zoom and meet with you in a public session like this to present at a future board meeting. We'll hopefully get that done in October. It's subject to the auditor's availability, and then the audit will be placed on your website for the public to examine as it sees fit. All right. So those are your business items.
Thank you very much, Sam. Do we have any questions? No questions from the board? Okay then. All right. All those in favor of approving business items 4.1 to 4.9?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right. Superintendent's reports.
Okay, so first we had a really wonderful opening to the school year. Our staff participated. We had superintendent conference days on Tuesday and Wednesday of last week. This included quite a bit of professional development for our teachers and for our staff. As you're aware, we're implementing a couple of new initiatives this year. One is professional learning communities. We had a staff developer come from outside. He was very well received by our staff, and we're excited to have our staff really work together. And the basis of professional learning communities is really staff getting together, looking at student work, visiting each other's classrooms, and collaboratively looking at how we can make sure that all of our students' needs are getting met. Also, as you're aware, Mr. Pelt had presented last year a new reading initiative based on the science of reading, which is actually going to be mandated soon by New York State. And we had trainers as well come. We're implementing that in K through 3 this year, and that will extend the following years as we go forward. Also, the rest of our staff participated. We have a lot of annual courses that are required by New York State that all staff members have to participate in, and they were able to do that over those 2 days as well. And then we welcome back, all for the first times, our students on Thursday, September 5th. And it was really great to greet them and see their mostly smiling faces, a couple of sleepy eyes, but most of them were smiling. And we worked out, we had a couple glitches with our transportation department, as is normal when school first starts. We worked them all out. We had a very smooth day today. And we're very excited to be getting into a routine with all of our kids. So also, we began the rollout of a number of our grade levels eating in the small gym. We've talked about this last year, rather than eating in their classrooms. This helps to keep their classrooms clean, and it's also a really nice environment for the kids to get to socialize with their entire grade level. We're rolling it out slowly. We did 6 and 7. We had 6 and 8 the first day. Today we did 2nd, 3rd. Tomorrow we're doing 4th, 5th, and then starting next week, we'll be doing all of those grade levels going forward. It's worked really well. The kids love it. Very, very excited, and we're, making sure that we're running it really smoothly. And we do have some grade levels that we haven't been able to participate yet, but we're going to work on, as we go forward, making sure that they're able to participate as well. So we're very excited. What's that?
How long is that period?
So a period is 43
So
minutes, so it's split in half because you only have 3 periods that are lunch periods.
Right.
Otherwise, kids would be eating at 9 o'clock or 2
Right.
o'clock in the afternoon. So one grade comes in, eats, goes out to recess, the other grade level's at recess, and then they come in and eat. So it's 1 period, and we're able to do 6 grade levels. So it's worked out, it's been very organized, it's worked out really well, and the kids seem to absolutely love it. So it's we hope to keep it going throughout the year. Next week, our teachers are going to receive their electronic data portfolios. It's going to show how their students performed on our New York State's assessments that were administered last spring. They're going to be able to utilize all of this data to help group students and set goals for this year. As you know, it's one of the things the board has requested that we establish goals for the coming year, and this data is going to help us in that endeavor. We plan on sharing the school-wide data with the board in an upcoming meeting. And also, as we mentioned before, we're going to be reaching out to parents and community members who'd like to participate on our district committees. And once we get those all set, we're going to be posting dates and times on our websites, and we look forward to getting started with those committees. Also on yesterday, our after-school program started that's run by Project MOS. We have 147 students that participate in that program. We're very thankful for the service they're providing for the Spring Schools families. It's something that's really, really important for this community. So we appreciate that. And we're just very, very happy that we're able to provide that service for our community. Also, just the PTA has been incredible. It's only been a few days. And I just want to mention that, I don't know if any of you saw the first day of school, they had those green and white balloons on all of our entrances. It was just really welcoming to all students for the first day. They also provided coffee and donuts for all of our staff on that first day, and we really appreciate all they're doing. This Friday, we have the back-to-school barbecue, and it's going to be from 4:30 to 6:30 on the softball field. It should be a great day, and I did ask if any of you would like to be dunked, and I didn't get a response, so this is your time to let me know if you'd like to be dunked.
I'm still pondering that, but
Oh, you are? Oh, Dermot, that's wonderful.
in there,
Yay. Okay. So we're looking forward to just sharing a great time with the whole school community. It should be a very fun day.
I like that.
No,
Ms. Bolger's point before, that is an event that I believe all are welcome to.
All are
not
welcome,
just
yes.
parents and students,
No,
of course, but
the
everyone.
community is
in our
welcome.
community.
It should be a really, and the weather has been absolutely beautiful, as you all know this week. It's supposed to continue and be really nice on Friday, so it should be a really terrific
Well, I hope
day.
it's warm for, if Dermot is gonna get dunked. I want the sun shining.
Actually, one of the first dunked.
We did decide to make sure the tank was in the sunshine, so it won't be cold.
I'm gonna say I'm a maybe then if you have to go, we'll see if I can.
So also
Thank you.
we have a picture day coming up this Thursday and Friday. September 12th on Thursday, it's going to be for our 6th and 8th graders. Friday will be for our pre-K through 5th graders. And just to mention that, as you're all aware, pre-K is part of our program and part of our building now, and they've had a really great start and getting a lot of positive feedback from the pre-K and enjoying having them be a part of our school. And then Vicky's going to put up our enrollment. I just wanted to update you on our enrollment. Okay, so at the last meeting, just so you're aware, we have an increase of 16 students in our K through 8. We have an increase, and this is since the August 27th board meeting when we last presented, an increase of 1 student in pre-K and 2 students at the high school. So basically, if you look at last year, in September 12th, and this year we have, we're almost the same. We have a decrease of only 3 students. So our enrollment, as you're aware, enrollment is decreasing significantly in a lot of schools. We've basically maintained our enrollment. The most significant decrease is in our pre-K. So that is decreased from almost 20 students from last year. And then lastly, I just want to point out that in remembrance, obviously tomorrow is September 11th, and in remembrance of all the lives that were lost 23 years ago in 2001, we will have a school-wide moment of silence tomorrow morning. And obviously, depending on the age level of different kids, teachers will be providing additional instruction commemorating this very important event. I remember very clearly I was here when that occurred, actually in what used to be the computer lab. And for any of you who are old enough to have been there, it's something that we always want to keep in our hearts and our minds and make sure that we commemorate and not forget. So that we will be doing that tomorrow. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Nancy.
Did you share the high school numbers?
The high school numbers, we're right now up 2 students from where we were last August, at our last board meeting on August 27th. Just so you are aware, We are getting new registrants every day. We actually, which is not included in this, received 3 new students today as well. So I will update you monthly on our enrollment, so you're aware of how the trends are going.
Thank you very much for doing that. So do we have any questions on items 5.1, 5.2 from the board? No. Okay, guys. So let me ask for a motion to approve items 5.1 and 5.2 under the superintendent's report. Do I have a motion? Second? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. There is no new business this evening. We're just getting into school, but obviously we announced some wonderful events coming up, the barbecue and the committees. But now I would like to move to public comment number 2. So if there's anyone in the room tonight, or LTV, if you have anyone for us, we can move to public comment number 2.
Okay, I just put the number back up on the screen so people can call in. We currently have no callers, but usually there's about a 7-second delay on our YouTube feed due to the RTMP process. Give us a second and we should see what happens.
All right, thank you very much. Anyone in tonight here? Yes. There'll be time for everyone.
Good evening again, David Kudak. I'd like to make a quick comment with respect to item 4.9, approving budget transfers from the end of the school year of last year. I'd like some clarification. I understand that no work budget is perfect. There's always a need to make a myriad of transfers at the end of the year. You can spend a little too much in one account, and one spend in another account. It all needs to match the funds available, and the order needs to make sure that everything equals out. However, what's not clear from this resolution is whether there will be an end-of-the-year transfer report, which is what customarily is done in the town government, so that the public can see, just like you have transfers during the course of the year. End-of-the-year transfers might be substantial, it might be inconsequential, but there should be a report given to you. I can understand that the auditor needs to finish their work and needs to have authority to make those minor transfers, but at some point in time, I think it has to become a public document, that there be a list of those end-of-the-year transfers, if that was not already assumed and intended by virtue of this resolution. Second item. Further comment with respect to item 4.8. I did send out a FOIL request on September the 1st, making reference to what erroneously, mistakenly was referenced in the July resolution. It then was referred to the existing 2022 repair reserve. Sam has amended, done an audible, and told you that he really meant to say May 2007. Now, there is a major distinction in the law between the creation of a repair account, which does not require voter approval, and the funding of a repair reserve account, which is not an ordinary contingent expense. So, if I can make an audible request to modify my pending FOIL request, I would like to get a copy of all available documents concerning what happened in May of 2007 by way of authorizing the creation and/or authorizing the funding of the school district's repair reserve account. Because if in fact this $342,000 expenditure doesn't rationally fall within the ambit of that authorization and that action that's taken supposedly in May of 2007, then you are not really following the law as required and as taught to you by your auditor, the state, and the controller, in the documents that I provided to you, which I really ask that you review and understand, and maybe ask your auditor what they mean by that statement that they put in their annual audit report, which says it requires public approval for the funding of a repair reserve account fund. That's basically it. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. I do think it's worth mentioning, if Sam is prepared to answer, he certainly can, but it's good for the public to know that we are well under our reserve limits, and I think every reserve that we have. So that's something that's worth mentioning. But Sam, is there anything that you would like to mention?
As I said, taking point, Mr. Rude's first point, as I said, the board is going to get a list of all the transfers that take place. And so I see no reason why there wouldn't be a wind up of the 23, 24 transfers as well. And it's also something that, I would encourage you to put to your auditors when they make a public presentation, if it's an area of concern to you. In terms of reserves, look, every reserve envisioned under the law, both in General Municipal Law, Section 6, which I think we've kind of covered very well here, as well as the Capital Reserve, which is a separate section of the law, has rules that govern its creation, its funding, and its expenditure. Who can create it? The Board of the Public. Who can authorize its funding? The Board of the Public. Who can authorize expenditure from it? The Board of the Public. And in each of these, the district is striving to follow what the regulations say. I read the May 2007 approval. The voters approved the creation of the repair reserve. But take it up with your auditor if there's question. I encourage you to do that. I think that kind of addresses that. In terms of the point you made about the funding reserve, I touched on it before. You're nowhere near the cap. Putting money in reserves is smart budgeting. It's good fiscal sense for the long-term stability of your district. And I think that's what you need to, and you are doing, offering your taxpayers, is stability. You've had to increase your budget fairly significantly over the last few years. It's my hope that by using your reserves wisely, with the new superintendent you have here, certainly knows municipal finance very well, with your new treasurer, you're going to be able to keep the budget fairly stable, keep increases modest, and not go into the pattern of spikes and valleys. We've talked about this before. You want to avoid spikes and valleys to give your taxpayers some predictability from year to year about where things are going to go. And by using the reserves in a wise way, by having smart budgeting, by having tight budget controls that Ms. Carney is doing, it allows you to avoid the spikes and valleys that wreak havoc on your bond rating, that wreak havoc to your taxpayers, their predictability, homeowners, and that's where I urge you to go.
Well, I appreciate that. We strive to maintain a balance between respecting the taxpayers that support our school, but also that if we have these spikes and valleys, that we never let it affect our students. And the fact that these reserves are in place for very specific things ensure that we can address district needs and not let it impact our general fund that would go through to everything that we've mentioned, like class sizes and all of the things to support our students in an equitable way. So we appreciate being very vigilant on all of these things, and also checking our work is important too, but just to know that we keep that front of mind all of the time. Our students come first.
And we've talked about this. We talked about this when we did our first repair reserve hearing in the spring. I think it was fairly clear that your bus loop was in unsafe condition, and it was well established that you had cracked asbestos tile in your commons area. So that stuff is going to have to be fixed, whether it comes from a savings account that has been funded appropriately, wisely, and is not affecting the tax levy, or whether it comes to the general fund budget. You have to do it. We've talked about, we talked about earlier, and I think that you're well aware, buildings deteriorate over time, and this is the largest public investment in the community, and it's your charge to maintain it.
Thank you very much. Do we have any other comments tonight from in-house or online?
No one online has called in.
All right, thank you very much. Yes, one more time.
I greatly respect Sam's work and his knowledge, but I have to disagree with one comment he just made. I think it's disingenuous. Every dollar that's put into a reserve account is a dollar that wasn't used to reduce the amount of money that you have to raise by way of taxpayer property tax. So those reserves are not free money. They didn't drop out of the sky. It's money that was put aside, which meant that those dollars were not used to reduce the amount of money needed to be raised by taxpayers. So I think that's really a bit of a disingenuous statement. Sure, you should have reserves. I wrote that you should maximize up to 4% your unrestricted, unassigned amounts, and apparently you had enough money left over at the end of the year that you can do so. It's not actually a reserve account, it's the money that we're not spending and not doing anything with. It's just sitting there, and that's fine. That's your true rainy day fund. It's about $1.5 million, I believe. Those monies are available throughout the year for contingent expenses that you could not envision at the beginning of the year. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. We appreciate everyone's comments this evening. If there are no more comments to be made, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn. Do I have a motion? Do I have a second? All right. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, everyone, for attending tonight online and here. Have a